All right. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I'm a pretty big fan of these Lenovo ThinkPads. I was talking about a T14 Gen 2. I've talked about my X1 Carbon. Here's a newer ninth generation X1 Carbon. But at the moment, this machine is not the one that I feel is my leading competitor for full-time laptop usage. One of the things that I was complaining about in my last video was the fact that I wanted my X1 Carbon to be able to have an internal smart card reader. I get that the X1 Carbon is a pretty thin machine. I get that space is a commodity when you're making devices that are that thin. But as I mentioned before, the people who work for these companies are extremely smart. And I wouldn't name drop any other companies or try to make it sound like Lenovo wants you to buy two laptops because they don't. But that smart card reader for me it's important. I kind of made it sound like it wasn't super important in the last video, mainly because I said, well, USB allows me to plug this in. So why do I need a dedicated port for it when I can get that functionality from this? And then now this technically is a portable thing. And that is true. However, if they made a device with an internal smart card reader that I deem suitable, I would consider buying that one. So, what did I do? I bought this. This is a Dell Latitude 7320. They also make the 7420, which is the 14-inch variant of this. This is the 13-inch model. But the one thing that you'll notice that it has, not on this side, but on this side, is that smart card reader. So, I don't know why it's so important to me, but it is. Okay. And at this point, I think it's gotten to, well, give me the option to have it. Don't just say, well, this line of product doesn't come with it. So if you want that, you have to now get a different tier of product because that T series is a different tier than the X series. But there are a few things about this that I thoroughly enjoy in addition to the smart card reader. On this side, there is a USB-C port. I believe it's Thunderbolt 4. Headphone jack, which laptops, luckily, for the most part, still have. And of course, a smart card reader. Nothing along the back but an exhaust fan or space for exhaust. Although, is this? I don't know. One of these is intake and one of them is exhaust. So, I don't know. But the two slots. And on this side, we have our HDMI, USB, another USB-C, USB-A, sorry, another USB-C, and an SD card slot. Looks like there's room that you can't take out right now because it's not configured, but for a SIM card would be my guess. So you might notice that the video just kind of skips. I don't remember what I was talking about. I had to go to the bathroom. I think I was just discussing the ports here. So I mentioned them all. I think the last thing I was getting at was the fact that you had the option potentially for a wireless LAN connection. And yeah, because this machine isn't configured for that, that little SIM card doesn't even come out. Now, I can say so far, this machine has worked relatively well. I'm gonna go ahead and power it up for you real quick. It's pretty quick. So I powered it up. Here it is. The screen is actually pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie, I do like it. I have found, in my opinion, that the keyboard could have been a little bit larger. It's not an aesthetic thing. It's not an aesthetic thing. It's more of a functional thing. And I don't think I have the biggest hands, but I do notice that even though I am pretty accurate when typing, I feel I wish that the keys were a little bit larger. So nothing substantially bigger, but I do feel like there's a lot of wasted real estate here, where if there were speakers here or something, I'd kind of understand it. But just to kind of have this little buffer between the edge of the machine and the keyboard deck, I mean, I guess the fan is there, but you know, if they did that, maybe they would have had to make it thinner. I don't know. But I will say, yeah, as I'm typing, sometimes I feel that, oh man, I'm not sure where the keys are, even though, again, I just need to trust my hand and know that I know where the keys are. So just to go over everything real fast, yes, your standard keyboard. In the power button, there is your fingerprint reader. The trackpad is pretty smooth. I know some people probably complain about it. Well, I think I've heard some people complain about it, maybe just one or two, but it's nice and smooth. I like it. It's really responsive. This particular machine has an 11th gen i7. I forget exactly which one. If you want specifics, go to Dell's website. There's 16 gigabytes worth of RAM in here, and I haven't opened it yet. But from what I've seen, for that 512 gigabyte SSD, it's one of the shorter guys. So not the 2280s or whatever, but like the 2235s, whatever the dimensions of it are. It says it in its form factor title. But what I plan on doing is putting in a different drive and seeing if I see any noticeable speed changes. Haven't had any issues with it so far, but from my experience, and I think you've even read it, that those smaller devices, those smaller little chips are slower than their larger counterparts. And for Dell, I'm sure it's a cost cutting measure, but for the consumer, if you happen to have just another drive laying around, then you might as well just go ahead and put that in to see if you get a noticeable speed improvement. So, I think that's all I really want to talk about for this particular machine. As I mentioned before, it has that Nintendo smart card reader. It is the competitor with the 9th gen X1 Carbon in terms of my going to be my daily driver laptop for work and for personal use. I also have a MacBook Air, which in my opinion is really just my companion device for my iPhone. I hate staring at that tiny screen, and I'm sure you might say, well, why don't you get a big phone? I don't want a bigger phone because I like the size of the iPhone 12 mini, but yeah, I still want to be, I want the overall usable experience. So I purchased a MacBook, but that'll be for another video possibly. So as I mentioned, and in fact, let me just, and I keep saying that, as I mentioned, I'll hold these things next to each other, and this isn't an exact measurement, but in terms of size, I mean, we're talking pretty close here, where all we need is a little slit in there in order to get this the smart card reader in there. So if this Dell Latitude 7420 can have one, the X1 Carbon can have one. As I was using the bathroom earlier, and actually this is the older X1 Carbon, but as I was using the bathroom earlier, I did think like, well, even though I'm not the person to care most about aesthetics, it does look nice, the X1 Carbon, without having either the slot there when you're using or actually have a smart card reader installed, or, and I don't have an example right now, but when that smart card's not installed, there's just a piece of plastic there that it's taking the space of where the smart card reader would be on the inside of the machine. So it's just a piece of plastic there, and aesthetically, it doesn't look as good as just a nice seam of whatever the material is that the laptop is made out of. So maybe they're saying, hey, yes, this is our X1 line, this is our best line, we want it to look the best possible, and in doing so we are sacrificing some functionality, and I guess I should have put sacrificing in quotes, not functionality in quotes, because again, you can get the same functionality, you just have to then use a USB-C or a USB smart card reader. So I feel myself starting to ramble about this. I'm going to continue practicing or using this Dell Latitude 7320. I'll also practice on that X1 Carbon 9th gen. But that's I think that's going to be it for this one. Nothing too important, just I guess cataloging my experience with this so far. I'm looking forward to continue typing with it. And yeah, we'll see if I have it in a month.